Welcome to Nostalgia Pilots, a Mobile Fighter G Gundam fan cast that preys on podcasts several times its size and usually wins. I'm Hugh.
I'm Jurd.
And I'm Spence.
And we're here to discuss Mobile Fighter G Gundam episode 26, A New Weapon, Erupting Godfinger.
In the dub, it's erupting burning finger. And my initial thought upon hearing that is Rain should probably look at that because that's a condition.
Yeah, the difference is the subtle difference between a medical diagnosis and a Tool album. Like Erupting Godfinger, all right, yes, this is the newest release from Tool. But yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to note though, did I just miss it last episode or is this opening new?
This is the new opening. And it's also a new closing.
Yes.
Well, I have thoughts about that closing. But I know, okay, so great opening. I love the opening on this one. Very kind of classic anime style in some ways in the way they do some of the overlays, but nice. And then, though, for some reason, they had to grab the looming rain from the old closing and staple it on to this new opening. I don't know why. They're like, well, we ran out of money. Let's just throw this thing in there. And that was actually my key that we were going to get a new close, because I was like, there's no way they close the opening and then also close the episode with this. But I don't know. I've got thoughts about that new close, because, oh my God.
Did you notice also that your favorite character, the announcer, was just randomly sitting on one of the boats in Shanghai, just clapping and waiting with his eye patch on?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also got citywide turnbuckles now, so it's turnbuckles all the way down, I guess.
So there's a turnbuckle inside the turnbuckle, basically. That's how you know it's serious, is you got past the first turnbuckle and then you got to fight inside the second turnbuckle.
What I want to know is that if you go from the citywide turnbuckle out to the outer space turnbuckle, do you get like a Pong effect? Because that would be hilarious.
I think you can up until re-entry a couple of times.
My understanding is that there's a future episode in which a probe comes in looking for the whales, and then to save the whales, they've got to ping back and forth between the two turnbuckles to go backwards in time.
That makes sense.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I did like the boats. I will tell you, I don't know what it is. I'm a sucker for all of the boats. I have no idea why the post-apocalyptic situation is so lovely and everyone has money for a yacht, but all right.
Well, so you'll notice that there were the people who had money and who were sponsored that had the nice boats. And then you had the traditional Shanghai boats, which are a little more run down. But that's very common in Hong Kong today because they are a mostly water city. I could get into the whole climate issues, but I won't because that's a whole other can of beans that we do not need to open.
Oh, that's an interesting implication, though, that maybe these boats aren't just like lovely, whatever, they're actually part of the apocalypse. I don't know if they had that much foresight back then.
It is clear that the boat that Domon ends up on at the end of the episode is that guy's house. Like, he is living with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found that I found so frustrating, but I'm usually frustrated with Domon, so this is nothing new, is that after we have the introduction and they're like, they have the Zeus Gundam fighting the Hurricane Gundam.
Also the Nether Gundam.
Okay, Hurricane Gundam is such an overstatement, especially after we see this fight take place.
Yeah, he's so outclassed, it's ridiculous.
The slightly windy Gundam.
Who could have guessed a giant windmill wasn't an effective fighting tool? Like, they
are an agricultural nation.
The funniest part was he's getting his butt kicked, and then he does the classic, like, oh yeah, I'll show you wind. And then, like, nothing happens. It's just nothing, and the Greek Gundam just runs him over. Although this did bring up a point to me, though, because we get a lot of the Greek Gundam, and it's clear that what is Zeus Gundam, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's made more clear to me at this point that the Zeus Gundam is entirely independent of the chariot and the horse, which, okay, so we've got examples of Master Asia with his horse Gundam, we've got the chariot Gundam. At this point, I think it would behoove one of these guys to just get a bus. Like, why don't you just run over another dude with a bus big enough to drive a Gundam? Like, why stop at that?
Monster Trucks meets Gundam.
Why not get a Gundam that is then driving a to scale other Gundam?
Isn't that what the Devil Gundam was?
Yeah,
though?
that's pretty much what the Devil Gundam is.
Yeah, you make a point.
Gundam
You
on
make a
top
point.
Of a big Gundam.
Like an English.
It's a Master Blaster Gundam.
Yeah.
Look at me paying attention and stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
But so we do see the Zeus Gundam like beat the crap out of the Nether Gundam, and we do sort of see that like the guy who is the Greek pilot is like also super huge and has a beard that matches the beard that his Gundam has.
He's basically Hercules. He's basically Hercules.
Basically,
One of his battle cries is Hercules.
well, I think Hercules is the name of the horse, but we never see if there's an actual horse piloting that section of the thing.
It's true.
Mostly because it explodes. So hopefully there wasn't the horse in there.
Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead to that explosion, but that explosion was hilarious in its own way.
But we do know that Wong is a bad guy because he does have like a giant, like human-sized chessboard in his attic.
Yeah, I wondered if this was another play for Gunpla sales, because it seems like he's been building a lot of kits and now he's got to do something with them, so he's built himself a chessboard.
It's not a chessboard. It is a risk board. And he's moving. It's a battle plan. And so basically the Hurricane Gundam falls over. And I noticed that on the bottom of the figurine, it said God. I was very confused by that. So at the bottom of the statue, it says God. And I was very confused by that. But these are the little things that my very unfocused brain will pick up on. And then he's just like, who do I want to put you against? Who do I want to put you against? Oh, right, this is the favorite to win. And Master Asia is pulling my strings. I'll put you against Domon.
Yes, so two things. Long story short, the reason that a bunch of the Gundams got renamed in the dub versus the sub is that Walmart, after Gundam Wing, they were like, we are very mad that we had to sell a toy that had hell written on it. And we get to choose the names for all of these robots when we sell the toys in Walmart. So they pretty much changed the God Gundam to the Burning Gundam and the Devil Gundam to the Dark Gundam, and that's why those are different.
So I did notice the minis on the table basically look like, well, one, the president should paint them. Like, that's just sloppy work. But they actually looked a lot like those old robot things you would get out of a gumball machine. Like, they were not terribly well made. And they were all very standard humanoids when, in reality, what we're seeing here, especially in this competition of a dude on a chariot versus a giant windmill, is that very few of these things have a very standard humanoid shape. But
yeah, they did look like something you would get out of Gachapon that was just like one piece of rubbery plastic. You could have spent more than $25 to have those made.
Speaking
are you kidding me?
Yeah, speaking of cutting corners, though, I did note right around this part of the episode, because it's a lot of discussion and a lot of, I think it goes into Doman walking around pretty much immediately after that scene, and there's a lot of still pans. There's a lot of moving people across of cells that are like, barely whatever. And then there's a lot of just talking head scenes so that they don't have to do a lot of extra animation work. So
yeah,
I feel like they're cutting corners here to give us like the extra epic battles down the road, but we'll see if it pans out.
Also, so this is the point where Domon is a dick for literally no reason.
Yeah, this whole sequence is hilarious. Basically, Domon's like, no one has any idea how powerful my God Gundam is.
Well, but neither does he.
Also, he's sort of pissed off that Rain got a hotel room for them.
Yeah. Like, there were all these things, and he could be prepping. No, I'm just going to walk around and not tell anybody where I'm going or take my communication device, which I have had in the past, but clearly don't have. Why has Rain not sewn a tracking device into his gloves? Because that's like the only thing he doesn't take off.
I assumed it was shorted out when he gets thrown into the bay.
That whole, I have to say though, I did love that part. That he's like walking around being a dick, and then Hercules immediately whoops him, and he drops into the bay. But the way he drops into the bay, I think it's supposed to be like he's unconscious and he's just dropping like a rock. But there's something about the way he drops directly down with his cape, like it was the most. Oh yeah, I deserve that. Here we go. I'm screwed. Drop into the bay, and then the whole, I think he's supposed to be unconscious and floating around afterwards, but it's the most FML kind of float, like, yeah, I deserve that. This was all me.
Here's the other thing that I have a problem with in that scene. Actually, throughout this entire episode is the music.
Mm-hmm.
Because the subtitles are coming up for the music, and it's super distracting. I can't really tell what's going on. Secondly, in this scene that you're talking about, it's a love song, and he's dreaming about getting his ass kicked by Zeus Gundam, and I'm sitting here going, but this is a love song. Are you falling for the Zeus Gundam pilot? I mean, if that's your type, cool, but you better let Rain know. So
Marcelot like kicks his ass, and Domon's like suddenly very discouraged. But the thing they make a lot of hay with is that, like, Marcelot's, like, 3 times his size. Like, he is bigger than Argo. But here's the thing, is that they're in giant robots that are, like, a regulation size. Like, Marcelot being bigger and stronger than you doesn't matter when you are fighting him in a robot.
As actually is almost immediately demonstrated after we go through the weirdest sequence this show has yet to offer me. Why are we talking about ground wonder bugs, and why are we spicing our food with them?
So this is the classic, I'm going to trick you very obviously that I'm putting something special in your food to make you feel strong, but not it just being a mundane ingredient. It's a psychological trick. And the grandkids, they figure it out. And Domon, I don't know if he has a degree
he figures it out. I don't know if Domon did figure it out.
Yeah, well, he says that he figured it out later on, but I don't know if he had an acting degree at some point, or maybe he was in community theater, but he looks like a dumbass when he hears this story and the revelation on his face. So there's that.
Yeah, but it's just like spice powder in a literal, like, packaged spice powder container. And the granddaughter, who is just like, I don't understand what you are talking about. You mean this? He's like, yes, that. Oh, by the way, Moppets are back, and we are not losing Moppets.
Oh, okay, so I just wanted to, like, stand up here as I'm the only one amongst us who has children. Okay, I deal with these rambunctious kids. Oh my god! As soon as they showed up, I just groaned audibly.
Yeah, they're gonna be around for a while.
I just had flashbacks to those jerk-ass kids from the original Gundam. Anyway.
Oh yeah, these are very much like the new generation of those 3 jerk-ass kids.
Ugh.
Where there's like the girl and who's bossy, and then the boy, and then the other boy who gets them all into trouble by deciding he should be a pilot.
Yep. And they're all saved by the bubble shield in Rain's compact.
Yeah, it's very much that level of...
I was not enthused to see them show. Okay, so actually that goes to another good point. Are we, and this is a spoiler I suppose, but is Grandpa Boat going to be around for longer as well then?
Yes, so Domon is effectively staying on his boat now because the hotel Rain picked is too fancy and he doesn't want to be in a fancy place. Because he's too much of a real man. Or of a martial artist to sleep in a bed that's soft. Or something.
This show has an upper limit. Well, I don't know. I feel like we already have the old man role kind of slotted with a number of these dudes, and
yeah. Although I will be fair that the colony governor is like, I don't understand why Domon's so unpredictable, and we'll have to do something about his personality. It was like, well, maybe you could let his father out of unfair detention.
You know, that might be some incentive. Positive reinforcement.
Yeah,
you know.
Maybe if you weren't holding his father hostage, he'd have a better attitude, General.
Okay, so somebody needs to explain the Wanderbug story to me.
Okay. So it doesn't really go anywhere, but he tells Domon that this is the ground-up type of bug called the Wanderbug that typically goes around and it eats other bugs that are much larger than it, even though it is tiny, because sometimes the weaker bug wins. And that's it.
It's an allegory of David and Goliath.
I think that the point he was trying to make is perhaps not underlined terribly well by the fact that they are spicing it on their food. So however victorious the Wanderbug might have been, it did not defeat that spice grinder.
No.
Okay, so that gets, for whatever reason, that gets Domon back in the fight, I guess.
Yes, so Domon shows up on the boat. So the boat sails to the fight arena, which is like a sweet, like a golden ring that's in the middle of the harbor.
And all of his friends show up to say, "Good luck, Domon."
Yes, the Shuffle Alliance all shows up in their own boats just to like travel around him in like a convoy, which everyone gets their cameos, which is pretty good. But Argo's is just him giving like a thumbs up and kind of a smile, and yes, like that is what I'm here for.
Yeah, and they do show up later on. Like, they've all been looking for Domon as well. Like, nobody knew where he was. Everybody was kind of looking for him. It was more than just, like, they've had several cameos in the setups to everything. You had Chivity and his bunnies having lunch together. You had Argo walking around towering over everybody else in Shanghai, as Russian people tend to do because they tend to be taller. You had Saisaichi. I don't remember what Saisaichi was doing.
He was just standing at a dock looking sad.
Because he's a baby.
Well,
I also don't remember I also don't remember what George and Raymond were doing, but
I think they were probably having tea somewhere.
I want tea. So yeah, does that get us to the fight?
Yes, so now we're at the fight, and there is a stirring, heroic sort of song. And I do like the fact that, at least in the Japanese, or in the sub, the music is in Chinese.
I think the music is in Chinese on, or Cantonese on the dub too, but it's the dubbing was very distracting, so I couldn't pay attention to the action. But when I did look at the subtitles, they were very much a the only thing I can relate it to is the final song in Encanto, where it's like celebrating the country that they're in a somewhat silly, somewhat homey way, and that's what this song felt like. So we do see the Zeus Gundam in all its glory, which has a chariot and wings and a beard and a big mallet.
It is pretty sweet, I have to admit, for something that we haven't seen really in action before. Those, well, I admit I do fall into that camp that's a sucker for wings on a Gundam, so that, points right there. And as soon as he was kind of, I don't want to say he's cheating, but this dude has a chariot and the ability to fly. Anyway.
Not cheating, he just has better engineers.
Yeah, I suppose, right?
But the Zeus Gundam is here to be the tough Gundam that puts the God/Burning Gundam over. Like, he is the heel that Domon is going to show everyone how cool the new Gundam is.
Yeah, well, it starts off pretty rough for Domon, because he's... Yeah. The Zeus Gundam's kind of harping on him about, oh, you're not going to lose a single fight, huh, buddy? And he's crushing his head. And that's when we get the big, crushing his head. Every single member of the crew being like, he's not going to give up that easily. He's not going to give up that easily. I don't think he's going to give up that easily.
And look, our tattoos are all glowing.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, he doesn't give up that easily.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so one thing that stood out to me in the transformation sequence into this battle was that, you know how in last season when Domon was having the body condom put on, that he looked like he was in excruciating pain. Mm-hmm. In this one, he looks absolutely serene. And when the symbol of Japan shows up, it like glows out very radiant. So I think that is one of the indications that Domon is changing based on how he transitions into this fight. But he's still a dick. Just saying. Anyway, that was a note I had, and I wanted to make sure it didn't get skipped.
Yep. So and it does do the whole thing where it like it's his face, and then like slowly, like in pieces, the Gundam helmet shows up on top of it. That this series loves to do. So Domon blows up the horse part of the robot, and it's only like the front portion of the horse. So we don't know if there was really a horse in it. But there's definitely not a horse in it now because he chopped its head off.
Yeah, yes, the decapitation probably, whatever. I was wondering, though, if there is a horse in it. I have so many questions about this situation that maybe the Master Asia stuff's going to answer. But if there is a horse in a rig in the Gundam, is that horse also hooked into another chariot? Like, is there a chariot as part of... Oh, anyway.
Well, we do get a shot of, like, laser reins that Marcelot is holding the same way that they hold the other weapon that the Gundam's holding. So there's probably a rig for it that he can control.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think we're supposed to think about it that hard, but it is a interesting setup.
Anyway,
but that's kind of our brand. We do think about these things too hard because it's funny.
Yeah. Like I'm very impressed that you managed to like damage the chariot part of this. And I'm going to kill you for it. So he like spreads his wings and like goes into the air for like a diving attack, which is also like kind of pretty sweet, but looks kind of silly because that thing has to be like at least 5 tons.
Yeah, exactly. So it looks pretty sweet, but also
he's a freaking giant. Like, what do they feed him? Like, he is twice Domon's size, and Domon is not short.
No.
So here's where we get the what? My new suit can do things very much like my old suit? Why, yes, Domon, it can.
Yes, the suit that you literally like transferred all of the information about your old suit into can do the same move.
But the move isn't the same. That's what I find hilarious, is that there's a very different process that happens.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not the suit that changed, it's Domon that changed, because he gained serenity in that cave.
Oh, yeah. I do like that he has Super Saiyan mode, where if he's serene, he's like a different shade.
But it does do that thing where, like, it kind of has this sort of like ring shape, like not quite wing, but the rig on its back that flips up, and like that starts glowing.
And there's a little hand. The hand thing that pops into place is very kind of reminiscent, actually, of Jibbity's little boxing glove things that pop into place.
Yeah. So like the hand guards on the suit like come down or come up or something, but like they all move around, and then Domon does that thing that you're not supposed to do, which is like punch it in the stomach,
because that's where the cockpit is.
Yes,
but didn't the president say that we're allowed to just murderize guys?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, but you're still not supposed to. It's still like bad form.
Bad form. Yeah. Although, it's perfectly fine, because my favorite part of the episode, and I'm going to just cop to it now before we're even done, is he just explodes the Zeus Gundam, like utterly devastates it, and out pops the pilot. Perfectly fine. The suit's missing entirely after the explosion.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I'm just going to keep calling him Hercules because it's easier for me. He's perfectly okay.
It does not make a difference. Like, he does not matter. He will show up again in the background in a couple of other like fight scenes, and that's it. Even though his suit was exploded.
Yeah.
It's vicious, and I'm not looking forward to the Shuffle Alliance fighting each other again. Because feels.
Yeah, for the most part, they don't. I think there's a couple of, like, episodes where it's like, these two people are fighting each other, but they're in the Shuffle Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but mostly it's going to be another run of Suit of the Week assassins who are after Domon.
If they were smart, they would just, and I hate it because she's my favorite character, but they would just kidnap, and possibly unalive Rain. That would fuck up Domon for sure.
Yeah, that would definitely prevent Domon's ability to do literally anything, but also that would make him mad, which in a shonen anime is also a bad move.
Okay, so speaking of, though, the closeout after the victory, that goof, and you've already kind of talked about it, how, like, there's no way he actually knew it was a made-up story, but that thumbs up sequence at the very end where he, like, gives the old man the thumbs up, and the old man...
Well, no, he like, there was an exchange, and he's just like, yeah, the Wonder Bug powder worked, even though it was just spices. And then the old man is like, so you saw through my trick, eh? Can't pull one over on you, and all that. So, but I watched the thumbs up. So.
Yeah.
Well, thumbs up is bro language in this time.
And somewhere Schwarzbrüder's like, idiot still hasn't realized I'm his brother after like 10 episodes of Noogies. You can put something over on it.
Oh yeah. So, and then that brings us to the new clothes, which I don't know about you guys, but I found weirdly upsetting.
So it's a tease.
Yeah.
It's a tease to try to get people to be like, oh, will they or won't they? Maybe they figured out that there were people who like romance, and so they were like, okay, let's give them a little teaser, something that they can be like theorizing about.
Mm-hmm. Like it's very much like a shot.
But it's a screensaver. It is a zoom out repeating screensaver.
Yeah, it's like the old one, but instead of Rain, it's the shot of Rain and Domon like they're about to
and Rain is leaning in to kiss him on the cheek, and Domon looks terrified.
Yes.
And yes, it's got some sort of weird Windows 3.1 screensaver effect going on, where it just keeps repeating into infinity and you get terrified oddly.
I mean, it's less boring than last season, but still it's kind of like 8th MS team had the best outro.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it is that I was spoiled, so now these weird still things with repeating patterns that they implement, I'm just not sold. I mean, Relena's weird safari thing, anyway.
At least I don't have to complain about a rusty sword this time.
Oh, African Relena Safari.
So I did make a note about the sword because I did find it hilarious that Domon gets his butt whooped and he's carrying the sword around the town for some reason. He never goes for it once. He just gets thrown into the bay and gives up immediately.
Well, swords are just for trees and waterfalls, don't you know?
Swords are just for showing that you've attained mastery. You can't actually hit someone with it.
Yeah. Have we reached favorite things? I know Jurd already said his.
So my favorite thing was after the Greek pilot like falls and is kind of fine out of his like literally exploded from the inside out Gundam. He looks up at Domon and is like, "It was me who was overconfident." And it's like so unnecessarily on the nose that I just kind of love it.
So much of that sequence is great. The fight scene, like I love how the suit looks, and then that explosion happens, and that final little thing. It just felt like they ran out of time in script or something, and they were like, "Oh, screw it, whatever. Like, just make him explode, pop out, and have him say something dumb and fall over."
So
they needed to reassure the audience that no, he's fine, even though he exploded.
Okay, so I am going to go back to my roots of talking about fashion of the show. What the hell is he in a toga? Can't you find anything else more Greek than a toga?
You make a good point there. You do make a very good point there. I'm trying to think what
So he's in a toga and
the
sandals.
The most that he wears is when he's in his Gundam. So that's just a note. It's not my favorite bit, but My favorite bit is probably when Domon and Master Asia are having the 1,000-mile stare at each other, and it kind of switches to a manga style of illustration. I would be okay with that if they wanted to save money by just doing those back and forth stills of the manga illustration and them thinking at each other. As long as it's not a flashback. I was a fan of that. Just the line work was really nice.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And we will see more of those sort of like stylized shots in the future.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But yeah, so like he is Greek in the same way that like when they went to Egypt, like they were in an actual like ancient tomb.
And
that,
there was
like,
a real mummy.
Yeah, like in the fact that in this universe, like the way those countries behave is exactly what Japanese people know of them, even if that's 2,000 years out of date. That's still like this is definitely what this country is like. So clearly, people in Neo Greece in the year future century 64 are wearing togas, and all their architecture is Greek temple. Which is why the hangar on the boat is a temple.
I suspect there was an initial draft of this script in which the Greek Gundam actually didn't appear at first, just a giant horse on the in the bay. And so the whole episode was just them asking each other, is the Greek guy going to show up? Is the Greek guy going to show up? And then the Gundam, right at the end, jumps out of the giant wooden horse.
You know, very Trojan-like.
Yeah. That would have been a good move on them, and then one of the judges is like, that's not legal, and then he's eaten by an alligator. But then we get the sequel series where Domon just keeps getting lost at sea.
Yeah, he can't find his way back to the space colony.
Banks is under the weather, so it was just the three of us today. But if you wanted to follow Banks, go to his site nerdswithvoices.com, and you can find everything he's doing. You can find everything I do at hughjodonnell.com.
You can find everything I do over at skinner.fm.
And you can find all of my craziness at linktr.ee/Resonant Moon.
Okay, come back next week when we're going to be discussing Mobile Fighter G Gundam episode 27. Hang on, Domon. Triumph of the Restored Faith.
So you saw through it, did you?
Okay, guys, I'm gonna go get jacked up on ground wonderbugs and fight some Greeks.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna
Me who is overconfident!
I'm gonna go find some tea and drink with Raymond and George. Catch you later.